Thank you for being here for another episode of It's My Money with Patrina Dixon, or if you're listening, The Money Exchange. I'm so excited, y'all. It's your girl, Patrina Dixon. You know me, I'm your favorite money coach. I teach everything finances, from fundamental finances and how to keep your money inside of wherever you have it. A lot of us want to know how to make a lot of money, but I'm your girl who teaches you no matter how much you make, how places to keep it and things to do with it so that you'll always have more. And that's why it's so fitting for my guest today that I have on the show. I have Dr. Terrill Hill. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, sis, how you doing? It's good to be on your show. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to getting into this. Money's a good thing.
I'm so excited to have you. So before we jump in and talk our money talk, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, I know who you are. I know you Dr. Terrill Hill, but give them the whole who you are and how you got to where you are today.
I'm gonna say I'm Gail's boy.
So, I want you to say that. I want her to listen ear to her watch. Hey, my girl doesn't even know it.
I'm the oldest of three boys. My mama is Pastor Gail Hill. That's my girl, my shiro. I born in Brooklyn, raised in Springfield, Mass. Military, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. A dad, got three daughters. I have an incredible 5-year-old granddaughter, married to a beautiful, super smart woman who is definitely my best friend. Like, we are really friends. So life is good. I'm the superintendent of Windsor Public Schools. I'm an entrepreneur. Been a landlord for 30 years, multiple property owner, just a brother that lives life, public speaker, brother that's living life, enjoying life. How about that?
I love it, and thank you for your service.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so I'll drop a little TMI for you all. So when I was on Dr. Hill's show, and tell them the name of your show as well.
Chat and Chill with Super Hill.
Chat and Chill with Super Hill. Y'all heard it here. Chat and Chill with Super Hill. Make sure you check that out. And we had a little conversation, and I haven't met his dear mom, Mrs. Gail, but make sure you let her know that I'm a super fan. Make sure she knows that.
I will let her know. She had just called me. I was like, Mom, I'm about to do a podcast. Bye. I will let her know that the host of the show says she is a super fan, but no, Mom is definitely the hero. I had to speak at church Sunday, so I just plug it in. And my message was Mom, M-O-M, movers of mountains.
Oh, I love that. Movers of mountains.
Mothers,
I love that.
There's something special. So that was my message, Mom, movers of mountains. So, but let's get into this. Let's
get into it. So money. So, one of my favorite topics is money. And the part that I like most, tried to start this at the beginning, is ensuring people have the foundational information. And I like to say, you don't build a house by putting the roof on first. You need to know the foundations. So talk to me a little bit about, I know you just went through Dr. Terrill Hill. So you know what that means. There's a lot of education there, and finances come with that. There's a lot of your investment, you own investment properties, etc. So talk to us about your thought on financial literacy and how that pertains to what you do in profession right now.
Okay, so I'll give it to folks simple and then try to sound a little educated about it. Basically, it's like doing the right things with your money, okay, no matter how much you have. And then you listen to Patrina's show, then you already listen to somebody who's going to help you out, period. And she didn't pay me for that advertising. I got to go back. So when I was a teenager, about 17, 18, just before I went in the military, one of my good friends growing up in Springfield, Gavin McRobbie, his father, I used to love, being there with the McRobbies, right? Taught me how to shoot. But, he talked to me about like buying your first home. And I never forget that, right? To this day, I never forget that. He was like, don't go out there trying to buy these cars with all those rims and all these sound systems that, you boys like. He said, the first thing a man needs to get is a house. He said, I don't care if it's a shack, get you a house because it's yours. It's going to grow in value, and that's your start. And he said, and everybody should have their first house by the time they're 24. I don't know if he just threw that number out. I took it as gospel. And when I went into service, I kept it in my mind, my little savings. and I learned all the stuff I could, and there are lots of benefits as a veteran. So when I got out and finished college and I got my first teaching contract in Virginia, I bought my first house. So I didn't close on it until just after I turned 25. So I felt like I let them down a little bit, but I did get my first house. And I don't mind saying it's still my favorite in my head to this day. It was Hampton, Virginia. It was 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a garage. And get this, Patrina, $58,000.
$58,000.
Did
y'all hear that? Can you imagine? People spend that on cars these days.
Right, right.
Oh my gosh.
And this is even worse. My mortgage payment was $376.52.
Wow, and he remembers it to the century.
Oh, because none of my car payments ever been that low. So I just remember that house, and that was everything for me, and that was the start, right? So when I realized that the boy who was born to the incredible single mom of 17 in Brooklyn, New York, like, you know, I listened, trusted God, listened to my mom. She always talked about get yourself educated, get educated. That's all she preached to her boys, and learning, right? I majored in business in school. Education was a minor. So I worked in personnel and finance in the Army. So I was always around money.
Yes.
So in Mr. McRobbie's advice, so that was just my start. And I knew that I wanted to get more properties. But let me back up for a second. Something I learned, but I learned it in high school, going to a business high school, the High School of Commerce in Springfield, Mass, is that everybody needs a budget. Everybody needs a budget. You got to start there, right? Whenever I've done any kind of personal finance classes or workshops, I always start with a budget. People want to hear the sexy stuff like, how do I make money?
Exactly.
Like, you don't even know what money you have. And some people will tell you, well, I don't make no money. And, you know, I heard you in your intro, you were saying like, it doesn't matter how much you have, right? And it doesn't. You got to start somewhere, but the budget tells you what's coming in and what's going out, and not just going out, but where's it going?
Wait, you better you better talk about it, Dr. Hill. Well, that's exactly right.
Because if you don't know where it's going, right? Like I remember one of my cousins, an older cousin, when I did a workshop at church a couple years ago, my wife and I did it together because she's, you know, she has her MBA. So I married somebody that handles the money too. And, you know, we were talking and I said, how many of y'all like Starbucks? Because I love my espresso, right? And I said, so you go to Starbucks. Back then when I did the workshop, it was like $5 to get your latte. And I said, so think about that. You spending $5 a day, at least 5 days a week. That's $25 a week you're spending. And 4 weeks in a month, $100 a month, $1,200 a year. I said, that is a couple of airline tickets somewhere around the globe.
Yes.
People say they can't travel. I said, so how about you buy you an espresso machine? You can pick the level you buy and buy the espresso pods when you can get 150 of them for $49.99 on Amazon. So
y'all heard it here?
Now your drink, right? The $5 drink, once you pay for your machine, and you don't have to buy a multi-$1,000 machine. I've had the same $800 espresso machine now for 17 years. Oh. It's running strong, makes my espresso every morning. So my espresso effectively costs me 55 cents a day versus $5. So now I can take the difference and I can put it into other investments. If you're so inclined, you can put it into a savings account. They don't really give you much, you know, or you can go into an IRA, or you could put it into stock investments or mutual fund investments, or if you haven't maximized your 401k or your 403b on your job or your 457, there's more money right there. So what you're trying to do with that budget is find, like I said, how much is coming in, that's what you're bringing in, the revenues, and then where's your money going out? And you want to minimize the expenses. That's the money going out. So where can I cut down? And like you said, like when I told you about my mortgage payment on that first house in Hampton, you said, and I said, my car payments are higher. Well, maybe I shouldn't have a car payment that high. Like, why do you need to drive? My mom would say, why are you driving a Mercedes to your house and you don't even have a garage to put it in?
That's what my mom didn't say that, but we used to talk about people that drove very expensive cars to the projects. Same difference, exactly right.
You park, it's not a condo, right? You parking in parking spot 8-7.
Yes.
Right? You in the projects. Yes. The sun, everything, the kids playing, you know, we play stickball, it's gonna hit your car.
Exactly.
So like prioritizing things, right? And I think that's something that you learn from a budget. So I always tell people you work within your means. when I bought my $58,000 house, that's because I had a $25,000 a year salary as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went
and you were 25.
and I was 25, I started looking at 24, right?
Exactly.
But
yeah, just for perspective there, even at that young age, that thought was planted. And that's the key there, is that knowing that things are possible and somebody planting the idea in your head, and then you made the preparation, right? And that's what you value leading into the budgeting. And I think that people don't budget, one, because they think they don't have enough, like you talked about, right? So it's when you sit down with your money, like, and when people are hesitant about budgeting, I say, call it something else, because a lot of people think of the term budgeting as being restrictive. It's going to tell me what I can't do. No, it actually empowers you, because now you know what you can do, what I have coming in, where it's going to go, because I'm telling it where to go, and where I have room to reduce, and then reallocate, because some people will reduce in one area to spend more in another. You want to reduce and reallocate in a positive way, right?
Right, and I understand what you're saying, because I've heard people say that, right? It's going to restrict me. No, budgeting is not like dieting, right? So I call it a reality check.
Yes.
Right, because how many times you heard, family or friends come to you and tell me, I went to the bank and they approved me for $300,000 for a house. And you're like, you make $50,000. Yes. Why in God's name would you be looking at a $300,000 house, right? Yes. Because they gave you a number based on the salary or the income you gave them. Right. They ain't do the final where they didn't went through all your expenses, right? Because making the 50 grand, you ain't telling me you bringing home $100. Right? Yes. So it's like understanding. I always tell people, it just gives you a real picture. And like I said, when I mentioned that coffee thing in the session, I said my cousin, she wasn't drinking espresso, but she was saying going to work every day, she would stop at the food place in the corporation and spend $2 every single day for her coffee. She said, I ain't thinking none of it, because it was $2. She said, I thought about you, bought me a nice Keurig. Yeah. I started making my coffee at home instead of going to work. So that $2 a day, that was adding up, right? You're like, wait a minute, that's like another $40 a week. I mean, a month, right? And I can drop that down over here, and now I'm like, I got $480 more to do something else, right? So, that's right. And for my wife and I, we always talk about, and I got this from my brother. My youngest brother's a CPA, so he told me this years ago. He's like, okay, you paying all that for cable? He said, I said, man, it's only $100. He said, yeah, but $1,200 over the year. That's a couple of plane tickets. So I always use this analogy. Any amount of money I can save, I'm like, babe, that's a plane ticket. Right? We like to travel. And the other thing the budget tells you, like you were saying, it lets you know what you value. Yeah. And maybe you don't even know what you value. You may say, because I hear people all the time, and they say, I want to travel like you, and that's not a compliment anymore. People say, I want to be like you, right? You got to really catch what people are saying. But it's like, but you can do the same things at your level and work your way up. Right? Someone just said to me the other day, said, boss, I can't do what you do. You big time. I said, I'm 54. So I wasn't doing this at 24. That's right. So, like, understanding, I understood the long game. That's why my first house was $58,000. That's right. That's what I love how you said the long game, because I use the term delayed gratification, right? Yes. So because when I was younger, it was immediate. I wanted to have the cool thing that was out, and then don't like it anymore. So we talk about the kids, we buy them the toys for Christmas or whatever, and then they don't play with it anymore. We show them that behavior. We buy the nice purse or whatever, then we buy the next one. So that's they learn that behavior, right? And then we replenish the toy or whatever it is. So it's when you have that delayed gratification, like I want that purse, that car, that home, and I'm going to do the necessary tactical things to get there relative to my money. And then once I acquire it, it feels a lot different than I got it and now I can't afford it and I'm struggling trying to make the payment or whatever it is. And I only share audience, like I said, just to share the blessings. Like, God is good. I am a Christian, and I tithe. I gotta say that because people are like, you do what? I tithe. Yep. And people say, like, the real tithe. Like, I don't know, fake tithe, right? So 10%. And I always tell people, and someone actually told me some years ago, do you know what your tithes are? I'm like, no, you please tell me, by all means. But I feel like this, if God can bless me the way he's blessed me off of 90%, I'm okay. And I'm gonna keep rolling with it until the wheels fall off.
There
But
you go.
when you said like owning something, right? I don't have a problem telling people I live a pretty good life. So I've always been a guy. I was stationed in Germany, by the way, in the Army. I love Porsches, love Porsches. So I have a Porsche. That's like a car I've always wanted. And I said, I always want to have one. This happens to be my third one, right, that I've owned in my lifetime. And I own it. And it's very low mileage and it's in incredible shape. It's mine. It's paid for. I'm not sending money. The title's in the safe.
Yeah.
And so
wait, no, you better back that up. So not own it, meaning he drives it and sends a payment every month. He owns it. So I want you to just let that settle for a second. Let that marinate, because I love that, because assets are things that you own, not that you're financing. So just double back to that one and bring that one back forward.
Well, people say, like my mom says in church a lot, people say, God bless me with a car. She's like, yep, he blessed you with a car payment. So it's like when you own it, and we have to pay for things, we own it. Yeah, but like you said, understanding the money and the budget, what can I pay for? How long am I willing to wait, right? What am I willing to give up to get? And that's so, right. Like I said, I know I love Porsches. I'm not going to drive it all year long. We live in a place where it snows. So I drive a pickup truck, a nice one. Right? That's paid for too. So
you gotta talk about it.
For me, there's nothing like having the title in the safe. And for my wife and I, all four of our vehicles, the title's in the safe. They're ours.
All right. So now let's pull that back. Because we're telling people that's ownership. When people acquire cars, most finances, some may, but leasing is a whole different story. Yep. Talk to me about how you and your wife together, one, got on the same page about ownership, right? But then let's talk about cars specifically, because as people are listening to this, let's talk about how you get there. So how did you all say, okay, when we buying it, we're buying outright, or when we acquire them by way of financing them, we're only going to pay for them a year and we're going to, pay more payments. Like, how did you get to owning 4 outright with titles in the safe?
So what we did is, so my wife, she takes all credit, my wife Charmaine, she believed in owning cars for a long time, right? I used to want to get one after a few years. I want something nice, right? Like you said, the instant gratification, nah, I need something shiny, right? Yeah. And I did have one new car in my lifetime, brand new. I ordered it because you want that new car smell. I'll never do it again because I'm not eating the depreciation. That might be another session, too deep for people. But what we do is we buy a quality car.
Okay.
You look and study like cars that have good ratings, right? And they have good repair histories. So, I don't have to worry about this car constantly breaking down.
Yeah.
So that's what we bought, right? And I had a neighbor, right? Like you get blessed when you live certain places, right? You buy a home next to a person who owns a car dealership and become friends. And so my boy, Tony, owner of Mike and Tony's in South Windsor, he's the one place we go get our cars, right? And he tells me this car is like, he gives me the inside because he knows. And so we buy a quality vehicle, because here's the reality. If you buy a quality vehicle, folks, it's not going to break down on you, and they don't go out of style. So people think, oh, this car went out of style. No, they don't go out of style, right? You buy a Lexus SUV, it's going to be a Lexus SUV forever. Doesn't matter what year, it's a Lexus SUV, right? And so that's what my wife happens to drive.
Me too.
So it's a good vehicle, right? And we also, like, whatever loan we take out, right? If it's a 4-year, 5-year, whatever, we always make extra payments.
Okay, there you go.
So we take out the term because then it gives us a payment that we can live with and not mess with our budget. Yeah. Right. And we never want the stress. Yeah. We never want this. So you take a payment. So if you say your payment's going to be $450, it's like, yeah, I was ready to spend $550. My payment's going to be $450. That's great. Now I got 60 months. Every month I throw another $50 on it, or some months I might put $200 on it. Like we're always paying it off much faster, way faster. In fact, we hate having that loan, so we rush, right? So you find some extra money and say, oh, we're not going to do this month, so I'm going to throw this on this here. And so that's what you think about. If you're going to take out loans, pay them off sooner rather than later, because there's no investment benefit to you, right? That you're like, it's just a bill. And as you said already, Patrina, it's not an asset yet till you own it.
That's right. And that's
So it's the bank's car. It's the bank's car.
That's right.
Even if you crash it, right? Think about how many people crash the car, and when they get the insurance payment, it doesn't meet the bill. Like you still owe 20,000 on the car, but it was only worth 15.
That's right.
So it's
and I know a lot of people watching or listening to this can resonate with that, you know, even if it hasn't happened to themselves, they have heard other people say it. So let's, you know, track in with this. So we talked about delayed gratification. We talked about ownership, and then the vehicle. Remember earlier, we talked about budgeting and reducing your spending and then reallocating. So that's when you start to use the Keurig maker, use the espresso machine at home, with that savings of that $5 a cup every day, that $40, that $100, whatever that is, can be an extra payment to the car. Because when you find those efficiencies within your budget, right, you want to reallocate those to things that where it contributes to you having things, owning things, having assets, like owning that title inside of the safe.
Yeah. And let me mess people up some more. It's like we battle on this one. Like, I like nice things, nice watches, nice shoes. And I mean, nice watches, nice shoes. So you're going to get me in a cheap watch and cheap shoes unless I'm going to do yard work. But when I go in stores, what I've learned from reading, because we both have business degrees and, you know, she's done marketing forever. You like that can of beans, you want Del Monte. And I'm not telling you to change what you eat. I'm just telling you the reality. So Del Monte, you're like, I grew up on Del Monte, I'm getting Del Monte, right? There's a reason why companies pay to have their product placed on a certain shelf. You need to learn that, guys. So you go in a store, you wonder why your favorite stuff is always at your eyesight. You ain't got to bend down, you ain't got to reach up. The stuff you like is right there because they want you to pay that, and you pay a premium, so you pay more money. However, Del Monte can only sell so many cans of, I'm gonna use string beans. So let's say they produce 100 cans of string beans. They're only gonna be able to sell 70 of them. What do you think they do with the other 30 cans? They allow that store to put their label on that can. And so now that store's brand is sitting lower, or some generic name, right, is sitting lower. So you got to do your own research, but you could be looking at your Del Monte can, let's just say for $1.89, and the, you know, generic one for 89 cents. Same beans, same factory, everything's the same, different label. So paying attention to little things like that. You can't get generic for everything, but where you can save money, right? Like, because a lot of stuff is in our head, we get taught it. And it's like, we got to unlearn a lot of bad habits, right? Like, why do you need that thing when you can get satisfied over here, right? So maybe you might want to join Costco or BJ's or Sam's Club, right? Like, instead of you running to the grocery store getting 5, you know, things of toilet paper, okay, you're gonna buy 30 or 40 at one time. You're like, I don't need that much. But when you look at the unit cost, that's the other thing you gotta do when you're shopping, right? You'll say, oh, it's $6.99. But if you look at this thing over here that says $7.99, its unit cost may be 23 cents, where the $6.99 unit cost may be 47 cents.
Yes.
I get that detailed. Like, I really look at stuff, and I'm not doing it anymore, because once you set up your budget, again, going back to the budget, you know what you're spending, and you're like, hey, why are we spending this over here? We can do this, right? And if we fill up the freezer with this over here, we can save this much money. We're not running back. And then some things like, oh, I want those fresh. So we can buy the fresh frozen. So we're always like, the money savings in the budget. Why I'm saying that is because it comes in, as you said, Patrina, it's different areas, right? If you save over here, that gives you extra money to do something over here. If you want to spend more money on your Del Monte, I'm not telling you not to. What I'm saying is, you don't know how much extra money you have until you do that budget.
That's right.
And so you say, okay, I don't want to skimp on Del Monte.
Right.
I'll skip on Jiffy, and I'll just buy, you know, Price Right peanut butter. So you okay with Price Right peanut butter? Not me. So not get Price Right, but I'm gonna get Jif or Skippy. Like, I'm not messing around with that.
My mom, it's so crazy that you're saying this, because my mom was like, I have to have Skippy. Like, there's nothing else. It has to be Skippy. So it's funny you're talking to peanut butter. I don't eat peanut butter, but she was just talking about that.
Everybody gotta have their thing, right? Like, so there's some things we don't mess with, other things you're like, I gotta get this. So that's, we always look, as you said, we always look for savings somewhere. And then the other thing I want to say, when I started investing, right? So in your jobs, I talked to a young lady at a Citizens Bank a few weeks ago, and it was a snow day actually for school. So I went in the bank and we just got in this conversation. That happens to me a lot. And she was like, you look successful. I think she probably looked at the account. So, but we started talking and I said, hey, she said, I'm saving up for a car. I said, oh, wow, that's great. And I said, so are you in school? And she was like, yeah, sort of. Like, so I ascertained that she was saving for the car. And I said, okay, that's cool. What kind of car are you trying to buy? She's like, oh, I'm thinking this. So the number just kept going up. And I said, you full-time employee here? She's like, yeah. I said, do you own a house? She says, no, not yet. I said, oh, I said, so you're not going to school, you don't own a house, but you're saving for a car. And I said, do you contribute to your 401k plan here? Does your employer match? Oh, they have that. I don't do that yet. And I said, so now I'm gonna sound like an old man to you for a minute. It's nice that you save for a car, but you can get pretty much any car that's running to get you to and from work.
Yes.
But you are doing yourself a disservice every day you come here and work and don't contribute to your retirement.
That's right.
Were you like 22, 23? I think she said she was 25. I said, you're thinking right now, I got time, but you're losing the benefit of time with your early investing. If your employer is matching you, let's say you can afford, and I told her start with a small number. I said, do you think you can afford to put $25 a paycheck into your 401k? She says, I can afford $25. I said, so now if your employer completely matches you, you're getting $50 going into that investment. Yeah. So think about that. And if you get paid weekly, right, 4 weeks, I said, that's $200 a month now going into your 401k, $2,400 a year. Not to mention the gains that you're going to get from whatever stock or mutual fund is in that portfolio, the dividends. I said, so that money will grow and it's going to compound. And you don't even know that because you're just coming to work every day and doing what you do, but your money is growing while you're asleep. That's the next thing, right? I started investing in Virginia when I lived in Virginia with that $58,000 house and my $25,000 salary. And no, I'm not making this up, the number 25. I started investing $25 every month into Old Dominion Power, the electric company. Because they had a thing on the bill that said you could buy stock from us at a minimum of this amount. And I think it was like $5 or something like that. So I did $25 a month. Wow. So that was my first stock investment, the power company down in Virginia at $25 a month. It's just, those are simple numbers. And then in my job, my 403B, for my annuity, even though teachers and educators get a pension, you need another stream of income because when you retire, guys, you need multiple streams of income. So just think of being a river and all these tributaries coming in. You want tributaries coming in, right? And my quote today, I have a little thing of African proverbs, and mine today is a Malawian proverb, and it says, a big river is enlarged by its tributaries. So you could have your main retirement money, but if you got money coming from here, your retirement is pretty nice. A lot of people don't retire, guys, because they don't really plan well. And that's right. Big part of that planning, besides the budget that we said repeatedly, is doing it early. Start now, put a little bit away, and you can watch it grow. You want to maximize your annuities when you get the opportunity. You can't do it all right away. We know that. We absolutely understand that. But if you start, it's money you never miss. It's pre-tax money. So you're getting a lower tax hit when you do your taxes. And so those are the things that you may not think about now because you're focused on, like the young lady, get a car or the one thing. But I'm like gonna push, like my friend Gavin's dad, Mr. McRobbie, get a house. My children, that's what I preach to them, get a house. I was never so proud as I was when my eldest bought her first house last year.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And she's up there with her sign.
Her soul sign.
She got her first house at 29 years old. I was just thrilled. And it's like, so, because I said, it's not a brand new home. She didn't build it. It's, it's a home. And so you own it. You got a mortgage. It's gaining value and equity right away because real estate, think of it this way, guys. God's not making any more real estate on this planet. It is what it is. So she owns that piece in her city. And she doesn't have to stay there forever, but she can have that investment forever. And my granddaughter now already has that much more in her inheritance.
Yes, absolutely. And
that's
why, that is why, you know, as we think, you and I sit here today, the mature individuals we are, I don't like to say older age, the mature individuals.
Oh my, I see all this gray up in here, right?
Yeah. The mature mindset relative to money as well. And we think about generational wealth, and now that is like, I don't want to say thrown out there, it's talked about a lot, right? Yes. And you can't begin, in my opinion, to build generational wealth when you don't understand the definition of wealth, in my opinion. Like how do you begin to do that? How do you begin to, like you went through the retirement accounts, because there's several types of retirement accounts, the part you can match. If nobody tells you about that, like you did for this young lady, even when you start working at employers, most people don't read the SPDs or the documents that are given. It's like, how much I getting paid? Here's my account number where you can put it in, right?
It kills me.
That's what they think about. Right. So that's why the financial education is so important, because I don't know about you, because you sounded like you got started, had somebody in your ear early. But for me, when I started to get my money right, when I started to think about it, I was a mom. I did own my own home and car at the time, lived in an affluent area. But if my employer didn't deposit one paycheck into my account, things would have blown up, because I didn't have the protections, the safety. I did have a 401k, thankfully. I did, I owned a home. I owned a home and car, but I had a payment on each of them, like we talked about. I paid for my daughter to go to school, but I didn't have money saved. I had every credit card in the mall, which is not a good thing, but I thought that's what good credit was. All of those things. So I sit back and I reflect, and this is now several years ago, and I said, why didn't I do this thing differently? Like, I had money. It wasn't even like I was one of the people that didn't have or make a lot of money. Why did I make those choices, right? And when I sat back and thought, like, oh my gosh, a lot of the things that I know today, that I learned, that I was tested on, assessed on, reiterated of, in the school environments that I was in, had I learned about money in that same way, then I would have a different understanding about money, right? So you talked earlier about, the history and the posters on your wall. Like, we know about those individuals due to what we learned about them as we were learning in the environments that we were in. And I'm like, wow, like, if our young people can get this information while they're young, because when you talked about your environment, you out of school, you went in one direction, some go right to college, some go right to the work field, various different places that they go. So we can't make the assumption as that they will get the content somewhere else, the education somewhere else. So they can't contemplate building wealth when they don't understand it sooner than we're learning it, right? Because your life expectancy, where I feel like we're on the other side, if you will. So if people don't start learning it until they're as mature as we are, then the wealth building is shortened. So we have to start that education early. So the more generations that come after us will have something like you just described that your daughter and your granddaughter have. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, why do you think, no, I'm not going to ask you that question. Let me say this differently. So can you talk about why you think it's really important for young people, and let's call it high school, because they're a little bit more mature, some of them are already working, need this information at that level?
Well, absolutely, because it's time sensitive, right? So what you just said, right? You had a good job, like as our friends say, you got a good job, right? You had the house, you had the credit cards. I've been there, lots of credit cards, right? You open your wallet, you think you all that because you can flow with the cards, right? But if I always look back and go, if I knew this, even as early as I knew when I was a teenager, and I still wish I would have did stuff even before. But if we don't teach them early, when they're going to be playing catch up for the rest of their life. Yes. And some of them, I'll say this, is going to sound a little bad to the audience, you will never get in the game because you will destroy your credit so bad that your mind will tell you it's over. I'm just telling you that, because you can fix anything. but your mind will tell you it's over. So you will never attempt to get in the game. So I believe the earlier that students learn, financial literacy, learn about money, however you want to say it. I'm a superintendent here in Connecticut and in Windsor, and I appreciate that our district, we require students to take this course. We're just really, getting the thrust of it going, but they know that, Dr. Hill is a superintendent that is very serious about business. When I taught these courses as a high school teacher. So I taught, personal finance and entrepreneurship and marketing. And so when I watched my students, many of them over the years from Virginia all the way up here to Connecticut, go off and do great things with what they learned in my class, because it's a real education and they can see the immediacy of it. Kids in high school are going to work, right? As you said, it's a great time for them to learn. But what are they doing? I got money, right? So I'll say something about one of my youngest daughter at home is a teenager. I ain't gonna say too much more, but this past weekend was a prom. And so I'm home on Friday watching one of my older daughters doing her hair and doing all that. I'm like, oh, okay. And, she finished doing whatever she was doing. And all of a sudden I see some man at my front door, like stoop down and step back and take some pictures. I'm like, what is he doing? And so my daughter gets up, she goes to the door and comes back with a bag. She didn't order some food. Not for us, but she's gonna proceed to sit there and eat her food. And I'm like, wow, this chick didn't even say, Daddy, you hungry or nothing? No problem. But then later on that night, I get a text from her in the house, that I can have some money to get my nails done for the prom. No. And I didn't feel bad saying no. Because, and she didn't elongate the conversation either. But had she, I was prepared with my argument. When you ordered that, was it Grubhub? When you call Grubhub, you made a decision at that time, right? And that's why young people got to learn, because they don't do the technical terms, right? They don't do cost benefit analysis.
Yes.
Right? So they don't look at stuff and go, wow, is this really going to bring me the satisfaction?
Yes.
Eating, I'm just making it up, right? This taco versus, getting this nails done or getting, and like you said earlier about immediate gratification, which you used to look for. That's what a lot of young people think about. That's why these classes will help them.
Yes.
You've got to learn to delay gratification.
That's right.
And no matter what you think, I don't care if we live in the microwave generation and you can find information in a half a nanosecond and you could talk to friends around the world like you, Spock. I know I just dated myself. That's fine. Some things still come through some hard work and time. And you have to decide, that cost benefit analysis. And I've taught all three of my daughters this, they all will capture it, I know, individually on their own, but I've said it. You made a choice to get that. That's what you wanted, right? If you say, I want this ice cream cone right now, fine. So we go down the street and you say, oh, Daddy, now they got the pretzels. Yeah, you're not getting that.
Yeah.
Like you made a decision. And so if you teach kids now, why do I need a brand new car in high school for my first car?
Yeah.
Now, if your parents rich, got the money, they want to do it, that's on you. Me and my wife can afford to get my daughter a really, really, really nice car, but we're not doing that. For what reason? Right. She needs to learn how to actually maintain a car.
That's right.
Right. So why would you buy somebody something brand new? Give them something that is safe, right? And it's decent. And she got to learn that you got to fix stuff. You don't just get keys and cars drive. They actually need gasoline.
Yes, they have to get their oil changed.
Right, they need oil changes.
What so young people that the oil change kills the cars with young people.
Right. And they think they're just going to drive to a little part-time job at McDonald's or Panera or wherever they're working. Yeah. And so it's just fun. And so these courses are teaching the kid that's not real life.
Yes.
There's a cost. You get a car. There's a cost to maintain that car, right? Like you need gasoline. You need oil changes. You're gonna have to do brakes. If you keep it long enough, you're gonna do tires, right? And you need insurance. Because if you hit somebody, your future could really be devastated. So
and what about if you lose the key?
If these new cars, your key, we used to be able to just go to Kmart and get the key for 99 cents. Them days is over. You lose the key now, you dropping a few hundred for all these high-tech things. So, young people, these classes can teach them that kind of stuff. Like, hey, no, you don't want that. Or again, like I said, the cost benefit analysis, you're making choices.
Yes.
Do I want this? The things that my wife and I have now, you know, when people talk to us about it, they go, wow, they want to look back. Like since you did my show, since I bought me a motorcycle.
Please, why did you say that? I don't want my husband to hear this part of the show.
I bought one, and I don't do crotch rockets. That is not me. I make my money with this big head. So, but I had a motorcycle 20-some years ago, and you know, had to get rid of it for a divorce. So I'll share that, because life is real. That's another reason why you need to know how to handle your money, because life gives you setbacks. And are you going to stay back there, or are you going to come back again?
You better talk about it.
I always believe in the comeback. So, you know, I bought a motorcycle. I got me a little fat boy, not the Harley, but a Kawasaki style, you know. And, you know, folks, like, I remember talking to my wife about it. I said, I think I want to get me another motorcycle. It's been 20-some years and I want one. And again, who I'm married to, she's like, if you want one, baby, go get it.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have to worry about our budget changing, right? And I got enough money to buy any motorcycle they sold in the shop. I know it.
Gotta talk about it.
But I went in there, I did my research, right, on maintenance and quality, because it's been 20-some years. I looked and found a nice used one that everybody think is brand new, because that's how well it was kept. And I spent $5 grand for that bike.
Wow.
Everyone thinks it's brand new, Patrina. And so that didn't even blow wind at our budget. Nothing.
Well, see, and that's how you have to set yourself up, right? And that's what I tell people about, because, you know, so we talked about generational wealth. We talked about financial freedom. Well, we didn't, but financial freedom. People talk about financial independence, and people ask, what does that mean? Like, what is that number? And in my mind, I feel like all of those, well, let's do financial independence, financial freedom. It's about the option, the less stress. It's about, it's about the options. Like, you wanted a motorcycle, you had the conversation, because motorcycle, I believe, like when my husband and I talked about it, it wasn't even about the money, like you all talked about.
Your heart, you was all.
Yeah, it's the same, because it's the safety aspect of it. But that aside, what I'm saying is, people have to understand, when you set yourself up financially, the ability to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it is what brings about the freedom and the independence. That's how I believe about it. You know, my friend, I call him my big bro, his name is Ash Cash. He told me, and I did an episode with him, and he said, you have to have that FU money. And that means you can tell people just that when people come into you with stress, or you don't want to deal with something, but you have to be in that position to be able to do that. So people, when they think about those that are listening in to the various, you know, I'll call it my squad, it's my money squad. You know, when you think about financial independence and financial freedom, for me, it doesn't mean it's the definition. It's not once I have this dollar amount in my bank account, right? It starts even before that. When you feel like I can say, I'm out, and still be able to take care of whatever it is that you have to take care of. Some may still have a mortgage payment, some not, some still car payments, some not. But you don't need to deal with things in order to sustain. That's
let me throw some.
That's independence.
I'm sure you got listeners in all age ranges on this show. I don't know, but I'm just gonna say it. Like Mom used to say, you ain't got to rob Peter to pay Paul. Right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm talking about, right? And I don't say the FU money, I do know what you mean, but I don't say cuz. When people say, like, when I told a couple of people here in the office, like, I'm buying a motorcycle, and they said, why? And I said, cuz I can.
Yeah.
That's like, I want it. And when you go to work, folks, like something we didn't say like bluntly, but I know my sister understands it and thinks it. You go to work to make money for only two reasons: to satisfy either a want or a need. That's it. Your whole life is going to be a want or a need. And you can't need as much as you want. Like, people get that all like, yo, I gotta pay this. Like my granddad used to say, is there a difference between wants to and gots to? He said, I wants to go fishing, but I got to pay my bills. So I gotta go work, you know. So when you, and like you said, that financial independence, right? People think it's a number, like when I make 20 million, 30 million. No, when, like I said, just using that motorcycle, and I get that because I get, you know, I pick up people, when people listen to stuff like this or shows like this, whether it's you and I or anyone else, they tend to think, oh, they at this point. No, I want to tell people, we don't change having fun.
Right.
Like, you know, like this is not a diet. I'm not sitting there eating 2 carrots and a lettuce leaf.
That's right.
And a half a slice of salmon, right? If I want to eat a hamburger with cheese, extra mushrooms, that's what I'm going to do. So what I'm saying is with the motorcycle, it's a toy. It's absolutely a toy. I don't need it. It's not an investment necessarily up front to like I think it's going to, you know, appreciate in value. It's a toy. It's just fun. And in life, I've done what I'm supposed to do. I take care of my home. I take care of the bills. Things are paid off. And I'm like, if I got a little extra money and I say, hey, I can go into the motorcycle store. The man in the store was really nice. He didn't pressure. He said, yeah, you know, take it out, check it. He said, go home and think about it. I said, oh, it's thought about.
That's why I'm here.
Right. It's been thought about. I had to confirm that it was what it looked like online, and I felt what I thought I was going to feel, and I feel it. And so I'll be back here in 2 days, because that's a Friday, and we're going to get it. He said, oh, so can I get a bill of sale now? Right? It's like, let's do this. So that's what your boy's talking about, the FU money, right? It's like that money, and not that you want to do it, but the reality is, I'll say it this way. When y'all see like them videos of rappers and stuff, right? And people throwing money or burning it, that's the money that if you threw it away or lost it, you would hate it because no one wants to lose money.
Right.
But you're not going to lose no sleep outside of your home. Your car is not, you're not going to be moving your car down the block to hide it from the repo man.
Yeah, backing up the license plate up against.
Right. So they can't, don't nobody know about that life, right? Like you parking 3 blocks over because you know you a couple months behind in payments, right? Yes. It's like, or you going on a trip with your friends, but you know, you just, as a landlord for 30 years, I know tenants that then went to stuff, I ain't gonna go in detail, with my rent money. Yeah. Like, you know, you wasn't supposed to be at that thing because you ain't had the money. And you took my rent money, you made a decision sometime before the first of the month that you wasn't gonna give me my money, and you went somewhere and did it. That's not the FU money her friend talking about, and that ain't the cuz money that I'm talking about. We talking about the money when you didn't pay the rent. Like, here's your rent. You didn't send your money to the electric company so you can have some lights and some heat, right? You didn't pay the cable company or whoever, right? Your streaming service. Yes. And you paid your insurance card, where everything paid, and this is the money you have left over. And you're like, I'm gonna take this money and go do this.
That's right.
That's called disposable income. Yes. Throwing it away, but everything else has been taken care of. And I include in there, when I do a budget with people, I said in the beginning, Christian man, I include in there, pay your tithes. Yes. You gotta pay God, right? That's my thing. You gotta make your own decision. Pay your tithes, and then you start setting your budget off that 90%, and you're like, you gotta make sure if you gotta commute to work and you don't live in a big city with, you know, commuter systems, then you need conveyance. You need a vehicle. Yes. So you need to make sure you got a quality vehicle. You can't be having no hoopty trying to go to work. It's going to keep breaking down. You're going to keep paying for it. It doesn't work. So you got to make sure you pay for your commutability, right? Yes. And that comes with insurance if you get a car. So you make sure that's taken care of. You got to have a place to live, obviously. You got to, whether you rent or you got a mortgage, you got roommates, whatever your obligation is, that's taken care of. And whatever comes along with that, the cable, the electricity, and all that stuff. So when you meet all your basic needs, the money you have left over, you can go ahead and take care of your wants. Yes. And so, right. And so when I tell people, when they say the need, like I tell people, it says, is that a want or a need? We, you know, like we have fun in the class with people and they go, that's a need. I'm like, you're paying $210 a month for cable. You got every channel. You got HBO 1 through 19. How much television can you possibly be watching? Exactly. And it's like, people are like, I need that. I need that. And I'm like, no, you don't. But you have to decide within yourself if that's something you need. Exactly. But I can tell you, and I'll say this, if you're watching that much television, how productive are you actually being in your life? Oh, you better talk about it. That's another piece, right? Because people have stuff, but people who have stuff, they out there on their hustle and grind, and they ain't got time for a ton of television. Yeah. So that's why I can tell what people do when they start. The budget tells the story. The budget tells the story. Sometimes, you notice, Dr. Hill,
sometimes people don't even realize what they're spending their money on.
That's
Like
why you feel
they're
better.
like, oh, I forgot I have Hulu. I forgot I have that. Like, because it's just either they set it up as automatic payment or they're not even looking, and whatever they have left in their account, that's what they have to spend. And it's mind boggling to me that people don't realize the 19s and the $7.99s and the $9.99s is all of those small dollar amounts add up to something every month. I recently talked to somebody not too long ago, because I don't work with one-on-one clients that anymore.
Yeah.
And this young man was like, if you could just start me off or whatever. So he said, one of the things we talked about was streaming services. So he told me, and he had an aha moment himself. He said, he told me the various streaming services that he had. And then he said, well, one of them comes with my cell phone. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what are the other three? And he told me what the other three were. So I'm like, well, which one do you watch more often? The one he watched more often was the one that came with the cell phone bill. So I'm like, you get this one for free and you're paying for the others that you don't even watch. He was like, yeah, I didn't even realize it. So I said, you know what we're going to do? Because I when I start working with individuals, I don't want you to go haywire. Like, don't just, because then you'll just say, like, why am I doing this? I work really hard. I want to do whatever I want to do with my money. So I said, how about you got the one with your cell phone bill, keep one of the others, and then let's do away with the other two. You determine which one of those are. So then when we got back on the phone, because I agreed to meet with him a couple of times, we got back on the phone, or actually we didn't get back on the phone. He sent me an updated document and he said, he just went away with all three. And I'm just like, he came to the realization, and that's why budgeting is really important. I suggested him sit down with his things, and he went through his prior bank statements. So how do you know what you've been spending? Your bank statements will help you with that, right? So he went down and then he realized, okay, I watch more of the TV that I do watch on the one that comes with the cell phone service, because I have to pay for my cell phone bill. These other three were, I watch a show here or there, but as I'm trying to get things right, because he was trying to do some other things, he went away with all three of these services. And that decision, I didn't tell him to make that decision.
Right.
As I had him do the exercise of what he was spending money on, he came to the aha moment himself. And that's the part, we said it several times throughout this episode. The budget is the money meeting. It's the realization. It's the, what do I have coming in? What do I have going out? And you can only get to that. And I'm not talking about the roundup, I think I spend this. I'm talking about the actual number that you have coming in, the actual dollars that you have going out. That's the only way you're going to truly get to the places that, you heard Dr. Hill talk about here today. So Dr. Hill, if you had something to say to somebody that's listening, regardless of they're as mature as we are or as young as our children, what would you say to them if they are listening to this episode? They are listening because they wanted some inspiration on how to do things differently with money. What would you leave them with?
So first of all, I would leave them with this, Patrina. First, thank you again for allowing me to be on your show. Absolutely. But I would just go back first. If you've done nothing else, start with a budget. And right now, with all the stuff on social media, Amazon, books you can buy, there's this great book, It's My Money, right? Like, you can get things that can help you, right? And you can get stuff that is put in simple terms, because don't buy nothing technical. So get the basic education you need so you can do that budget. And then from there, I would say everything else is possible. If you want to buy a home, it's possible. You don't have to start off with a mansion. Start off with, quote unquote, a little fixer-upper, right? Like, you might have to, I got to paint the rooms. I got to do this. Start where you can and grow to everything else. You will be so proud of yourself. That's something that I didn't say today, but you will be proud of yourself, because you probably never thought that I could be a person who could live in a house and all the rooms is all different colors, because you got to take time to paint all of them, right? Or I don't like these windows. I want to change them. You can't do it all at once, but it's yours. And when you go to sleep at night, you can say, Lord, I thank you because this is mine that you gave me. It's growing in value. And it will also be, I didn't say this earlier, it could be your launching pad for so many other investments, because the equity that you get in one property could be enough money for you to do all kinds of other investments. Get a bigger property, a newer one. You can rent this current one out and start making money. You can take a trip or a vacation that you always wanted to take. So if you can dream it, you can actually do it. but you got to start with that budget.
That's right. That's right. Dr. Hill, thank you so much for
Thank
being having the conversation with me. I truly enjoyed this. Before we exit, make sure I reiterate this point. Please tell Mrs. Gale I said hello.
Oh, Mom.
Make sure you say that. Say, Mom, what is it again? Movers of mountains. So
that was my message, Mom.
yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much. Dr. Hill is the superintendent of schools in Windsor. All schools in Windsor, right?
Windsor Public Schools. Yep.
Windsor Public Schools. So Dr. Hill, Dr. Terrill Hill, superintendent of Windsor Public Schools, and that's Windsor in Connecticut. So I appreciate you for all you do for all of our students in the town of Windsor. I actually reside in Windsor, so I appreciate you and all the work that you do for all of us here and our young people in Windsor. And for all of you that are listening and watching, and thanks again for rocking with Patrina of It's My Money or The Money Exchange if you're listening to us. Always keep it locked. I try to bring you good conversations relative to money to give you the inspiration to go on your journey to get financial independence or freedom and begin building generational wealth. If you need any resource to help you do that, make sure you drop down in the show notes and grab what is pertinent for you to help you along your journey. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, make sure that you follow so that you'll be made aware when other episodes become available. So thanks again, Patrina Dixon, the It's My Money lady. Make it a great day.